Alright guys, welcome to Chapter 12, 2D Game Design. This video should be relatively short. There's not a whole lot in this chapter that you can't figure out by reading it. So this is about organization. So first they talk about organizing the prefabs. And if we look at the prefab folder, there was all kinds of stuff there. So they have you create a new folder called enemies, and again you can just right click and create. Right click, create folder, and then name it enemies. And then they tell you to, where is it, on the bottom of page 249, go to the label list, but they don't really show you where that is. So if you go here, this little thing right there, and I hope you can see that in the video, I'll move the mouse a little bit, click that, that's where you can click and hit enemy, and you can sort out the enemy ones. And then just drag them into the enemy folder and you're all set. Alright, that takes us past to page 250. Alright, page 250 through 253 has you create a new scene, file, new scene, and then they tell you to go to the background folder and grab the level design _ background, and there is no such thing. So just grab the title screen and pop that in there, and that's what you're going to use. Alright, then they have you go and grab some grass mid, and where is the one that they're looking for? There it is. That's the one. So once you grab this grass mid, then they have you put a whole bunch more across. So if I type in mid, why you let me do that? Then they have you just keep adding them, and you can just add them to the title screen or just pop them in here like this, 1, 2, 3, or you can duplicate them. Oh, you little... like we did the other time. And then once you put them in there, they have you go here and just change the position and that kind of stuff. So when you're done, you've got 16 of them going across your screen. So I'm just going to pop these here together, and then I'm going to do my little snap settings and snap that one. Whoa, didn't like that. And then I'm going to grab all 4 by holding the control button down, and I'm going to do a control D, and then I'm going to move those 4, and then I'm going to do snap settings, and that gives me 8. And then I'm going to go through here, hold shift and go there, now highlight the whole thing, and then D, and then I'm going to drag that over. That worked out really well. Alright, so let me go hold control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 6 from the inside. Control D, drag those, pop those in, and snap. And then I'm going to grab the title screen, move it up to the top. Then I'm going to grab these and put those inside the title screen. Then I'm going to grab those on the bottom and move those inside the title screen, so that eventually all I have is title screen and main camera, like that. And then at that point, when you want to move them, you can just grab them like this and hit that, and I can move the whole thing. Or I can just go here and highlight the whole thing and move the whole row wherever I need to do it. Alright, and then they have you duplicate this whole thing, so I can go to title screen, and now I can do control D, and then I can move that one over. So that's what they're trying to show you in page 250, 252, 253, that kind of stuff. So it's all about organization and optimizing and making your work more efficient. Now at the end of that, they don't tell you what to do with that, but you do not have to save that folder. I'm going to go back and I'm going to open our main scene, open level, and don't save. Alright, after that, they talk about organizing the scripts into different sections, and they start using the hashtag region and hashtag nRegin. So basically that way in your script you put everything in kind of the same code block. So I have a region for variables, and I have a region for public variables, and I have a region for private variables. So if you follow 254, 255, and 256, you'll see how they reorganize the player controller script just to make it a lot more readable. Remember, when we're making these little small games like this, it's our scripts are relatively short. But think about a game like World of Warcraft or Star Wars: The Old Republic or EVE Online, and think about how big some of those scripts would be. So without putting some organization in your code and getting used to that from the very beginning, unless you do it at the beginning and you build the habit, you won't do it later on. So it's a good idea to get in that habit. So I'm not going to go into how to do this. Again, you just got to put stuff in the right place and then put the # region, # region, and you're all set. All right, then they talk about using constraints. Now, me personally, I'm on the fence with the constraint thing. What they're doing is they're putting all the settings into one script, and then all the different settings are going to then focus on the script and no longer look at, you won't be able to change things that easily. If you have things in the game the way you want them, then using the constant script like they describe is a good idea so that they can't be changed. But since we're still tweaking our game, and when you're all said and done, we may tweak a few little settings and stuff, you can skip the constant folder if you want. So I'm not going to do the constant script, and then in which case then I'm not going to update my player controller script. What they do is they take the settings like for the player. Like if I go down here to the speed, here I can adjust it because it's in the player controller script. But if I use the constant script, then I'm I'm kind of hard coding the speed into that script, and then if I want to change the speed, I have to go into that script. And I don't want to do that. I like to just be able to go here and do things like that, especially if I'm still tinkering with something. Once you're done and you have things set the way you want, it's a good idea to have the constant script. But otherwise, you don't need it. Oh, and I totally forgot the part where on page 251 and 252 they talk about organizing the hierarchy. Now for me, this box coin, this is going to be my final one, so I'm going to pull all these off and I'm going to replace them with the final, so I want that separate. The canvas should be separate, and then the HUD that the game told us to make should be separate, and then I like the player separate, and obviously the main camera separate. But then everything else should be in your screen folders, 1 through 20. So you shouldn't have a whole ton of different stuff out here other than the things that I have. So when you submit your final project during finals week, main camera, player, HUD, canvas, that stuff can all be outside, but everything else should be in the folder that it contains. Now remember, this canvas will block, like if I try to click on this block, I can't. So you're going to have to move the canvas away in order to click on that block, or do it some other way, because you can't just go clicking on things that are inside the canvas now, because the canvas is on top, if that makes any sense. Alright, then moving forward, now we're on page like 261, and then they start talking about optimizations. So they talk about the prefab folder and the importance of using things as prefabs. They talk about physics, and then they go into the time manager. And to get to the time manager, you want to go into Edit Project Settings. So Edit Project Settings and then Time. And then if you look over here, now my time manager settings show up. And on the top of page 263, they talk about these 3 different things, what the settings are, and what making them higher or lower do. Alright, then after that they get into some changes maybe to the rigid bodies, changes to draw calls, changes to materials, and they discuss triangle count. Some people call them triangles, other people call that poly count. So whenever you're looking at different art assets, they typically refer to that as polys. So if you see an asset with a low poly count, it means it has a fewer amount of polygons than a normal one, or a different one, or it's as low as I could get it. Alright, then they talk a little bit about the rendering stats window that's there for you. And then that's really about it for that chapter. So nice, easy chapter. If you're not done with your project, you're not caught up, you can get it caught up. But again, your final project needs to have all those processes done. And then they talk about exercises on page 268. And remember, you don't have to do these exercises, but it's a good idea. Like here on the blocks, they say, hey, remove the box colliders, because remember, if I got 20 blocks, I got 20 box colliders. So that's all stuff that has to be drawn and monitored by the system. So instead of having that, if I just have a line collider or a box collider, just one giant one goes from here to there, that would take a lot less maybe CPU cycles or memory storage or things like that. I don't even have to use a box collider. I could just use an edge collider for the ground. But you get the idea. So they give you a couple tips in there, and then after that, next week we're going to do chapter 13 and bring it all together, and that's where we'll finally have like a full playable game. If I go to the scenes folder, like there'll be a title screen, and then there'll be a splash screen, and then we'll play our level, and then there'll either be game over, or game over because I lost, or game over because I won the game. So that last chapter has a lot of stuff in it. It is a little bit long, so make sure you're ready for that. Make sure you read it beforehand, before next week. Don't save everything till the end. See what you can get done now. And again, other than that, don't forget that your final project has to be submitted during exam week, and I'll tell you exactly when in Angel. And other than that, email me if you've got any questions, and have a great week.